You all ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, in the booth, we're ready. At 7 o'clock, I will open tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting and ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. I will start tonight's meeting and ask if there's any public comment from the board.
I do. I would like to congratulate the Senior Tax Work-Off Program for rolling out the increased benefits of this program for the coming year. Folks in this program will now receive $12 an hour for doing work for the town, up to 125 hours annually. If they work the max, their property tax bill will be reduced by $1,500. The income eligibility has also been raised to $50,000 for a one-person household and $75,000 for a two-person household. I hope a lot of people apply and get this help. To apply, they can pick up an application at the Lunenburg Council on Aging office located at the Eagle House Senior Center. I also wanted to mention that the Stormwater Task Force has a survey. There's a link on the town website homepage. Their hard copies are also available right here at Town Hall, at the library, and the Senior Center. The town needs to know how it can help citizens learn about what they can do to help control stormwater runoff to prevent erosion as well as pollution of Lunenburg's drinking water, lakes, ponds, and streams. Our town needs all of us to work together on this important issue.
Thank you. I just have one announcement. I want to, excuse me. I want to thank Terry Birchfield and the FinCom for putting on last Tuesday night's informational symposium about the outlook for Lunenburg as far as population and budgets and financials. And the three presenters, we had Adam Burney, who was our land use director. We had Dr. Burnham as the superintendent of schools and our own town manager, Heather Lemieux. So they had excellent presentations there. Are those presentations digitally available on the websites?
We can make them digitally available.
Okay, and it was recorded, although not broadcast live, it was recorded and will be replayed on PAC. So it is a good symposium. It's set out a good framework of information from which to start the budget process, which of course will start in earnest in the new year. But it gives everybody the same baseline information as far as populations and where the stress points are in town and in the schools. So it was very well put together and well run by Terry and all the speakers. So I want to thank them for that.
It must be on YouTube also, right?
Yes, yeah,
Great.
as all PAC things are, yes. Any public comment from the public? None. Do you have any announcements?
I can save them for the town manager report.
Okay. So appointments, 7:05. We have a toll booth boot drive permit request for December 14th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. from the Salvation Army. Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening, guys. Dave McDonald, Island Road, Lunenburg, and I'm with Envoy Lynette Valentine from the Salvation Army. We're here tonight for a couple of reasons. One is for the boot drive, and we'd like to update you on what we've been doing for the community and what we're going to be doing for Lunenburg this year. Can't thank you enough for what we did last year. We're looking to do that again, and Lynette's going to explain that. So if you could explain where we are, where we're going.
Okay. Last year, the town hall did the Angels, and it was magnificent. The outpour of compassion and the toys that were bought for the families and the adopted families, it went really well. We want to thank you for the support. with our angel tree program. Also, the senior center had angels on a tree over there, and they were all taken, and all the families were taken care of. So with the help of the town of Lunenburg, it made Christmas very special for so many. So we want to thank you for that, and hoping that we can do that again this year. Also, our Thanksgiving baskets, we're going to be doing those. We've been taking applications since September. And with that being said, we have estimated about 350 families between the 3 towns. So distribution will take place on November 26th. And also the Christmas tree, or the Christmas distribution will take place December 23rd. So we have the angels coming in for that. So that's our Christmas, Thanksgiving tied in. We also have our other event, and we're going to talk about that as well for our veterans. And that's our give back to the community in honoring and saluting our veterans for Lunenburg, Leominster, and Fitchburg. So we're really excited about that coming up.
Excellent.
And if you want to explain the Veterans Dinner,
Sure.
it's,
What we decided to do for our veterans locally for all 3 towns is to do back where we started. We chose Devon's for many reasons. I drove through it, and it was just like a silence. It was like, what a wonderful place to go back to honor and salute our veterans. And that's taking place Wednesday, November 13th. We still have room. The deadline on the website and our Facebook page says November 2nd, but if you go on and you can still register, there's a seat available, and we don't want any veterans left out. So by all means, if they go to the Salvation Army Fitchburg page, you can register to come and be saluted and honored. If you're a veteran, we're looking forward to a wonderful turnout that night.
so we hope you guys can make it. I know, Mr. Alonso, you're going to be a guest speaker for the event, and we appreciate you coming and showing support. The other thing we're doing is, as you know, Christmas in the Salvation Army is very dear in my heart, and we've been working real hard over the last couple of years, especially with EDS. I think you've seen us in the news, local news. We went to the Fitchburg fire, we went to the Natick fire, we went to a Reading fire, we went to Andover gas explosions, or in the gas pipeline again. So we've been very busy locally with that. And again, I want to thank the town of Lunenburg and the residents for their support with that. The boot drive that we do is annually. I think we wrote the policies as far as rules and regulations, because I think we broke every one of them at one time or another. So we are doing a boot drive. It's going to be a dual boot drive, one on Electric Ave, CVS, and one at the center of town. We talked to Mr. Rodriguez and the Police Chief Marino. Actually, Police Chief Marino is going to supply a cruiser for us down at the CVS location. One time or another, you all helped us in one way or another with the boot drives and so on. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for that. This year's another tough year. Everyone thinks the economy is great, but the need is out there. And really, all you got to do is look out the window. You would see. So what we want to do is, this town used to have Gift Mart, if you guys remember that, a couple of years ago. And last year, we filled that void with Mr. Lemieux, the town manager, with our Christmas angels. So anybody who wants angels, and again, everybody's taking the angels and adopt a child, that would be great. Our goal is to have every morning a child should open up a toy on Christmas morning. So that's been a pretty good goal, and Lunenburg has been fantastic at that. But our boot drive is going to be on December 14th. We're going to go from 9 to 3 at those both locations. We'll be wearing our vests, our signage, our canteen will be there. There's rumor that Santa will be there as well. I don't know his hours yet. I don't know if you talked to Santa. I know you have a direct line, but I know he will be there. We will be also having the Santa mailbox. Has nothing to do with the Salvation Army, by the way, but the mailbox will be set up at the center of town, and hopefully you bring your child down and give a letter to Santa director, pop it in the mailbox. So again, just want to say thank you guys very much for everything you guys do to support us. The main thing I got to say, and Lynette's going to give you the information in a second, anybody in Lunenburg need help, we're here for you. All money's collected at our tool booth, which we're going to be around the Tri-City area over the next few weeks, stays here in the local economy, stays here, it doesn't go anywhere. All the money is donated will go right back to the community, either through our fuel assistance, food programs, or like I said, the children. And again, we want to make sure that every child does have a toy to open on Christmas. So any family in Lunenburg needs our assistance. Lynette, if you want to give our information.
I will. Our social service has been very active in all 3 towns that we serve. The need is great. All the money that's collected in the Red Kettle, it's more than just an annoying bell. that's how we're able to help the communities, help with rent, help with utilities, the fire victims, just the counseling. There's some is a monetary sense, some is just struggling with opiate use, helping and just being there for that listening ear and helping these families through crisis. There's been a lot of damage done with the opiates. Families have been destroyed, and our goal is to work with them, rebuild, restructure, keep families lights on, keep them warm in the winter. So when you see the red kettle, or you see us out in the street, that's where the money's going. 100% of the money that comes in stays in our town. So with the generosity of 3 towns and people giving, it allows us to keep doing what we're doing. And we just want to say thank you to everyone who does participate, everyone who drops a penny, a dime, a nickel, a dollar, makes a donation, a business, a volunteer hour. It's all so appreciated, and I want to say thank you.
And one last thing that I have is that if anybody would like to help us at the Salvation Army, please feel free to reach out to us at 978, I should know this number, I've been here for 35
you
years.
should.
Yeah, I call the 800 number, 978-342-3300. You can ask for Andre Valentine. And last, I just want to say again, any citizen, and Mrs. Lucky brought up the workout program for the seniors. Well, it's very tough for some of the seniors today. And I just want them to know that we're there for them as well. If they need food for Christmas, they need baskets, they need assistance, please don't, just call us and we'll come out and help you. And it can be confidential too, so if anyone needs any help at all, don't be ashamed. Pick up the phone and call us. That's what we do. And I'm opening up for questions if anybody has any questions.
Do you have any questions? No. I will have a comment. I mean, I know you both well, and I know the work you do firsthand. I hope that other people see in the newspaper and read about what you do, and that you're not just before us once a year, that what you do in your organization is year-round. And I'd like to thank you in return for all the work that you guys do year-round, and especially, you know, because of the Red Kettle, you're more associated with Christmas probably than any other day, but it is a 365-day-a-year operation, and the places that you've gone, even down to the hurricane zones, people here went down there to help, as well as the local areas. I mean, it really fills in a void that I think would be really left wide open if your organization didn't cover it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lons, I want to thank you for those words. Also, I want to put a challenge out to you guys. We ring the bell right down the street here at Walmart. So if you guys want to do a challenge, and we're doing it with the mayors of, hopefully the mayors of Fitchburg and Leominster after tonight's election, but if they're all set to line up to help us with boot drives and challenges. So if you guys want to come for a couple hours and ring the bell and meet people, it's a great experience. I enjoy it every year, as you guys know. But anyone who wants to help, or anybody who wants to volunteer, the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, the DPW director, I mean, we're always welcome to take assistance. And I also have to thank all you guys for adopting our children last year. Again, it meant a lot. And if anybody wants to see what we do, please come with us for a day, and you can come help us deliver toys. You can come help us do meals. To see someone's face on Christmas morning being helped is worth more than words can describe. And it makes our world petty much more brighter. And as you all know how I feel about Lunenburg, I can't thank Lunenburg enough for what they guys do for us. And that's why it's a privilege to work for the town of Lunenburg and what I do. So again, thank you, and hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. And isn't that kind of early for that? But hey, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. Lynette?
I will
Okay. Thank you.
entertain a motion regarding the request for the boot drive permit on December 14th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 2 locations.
Sure. I move to approve the request for the toll booths, the 2 toll booths on December the 14th from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. for the Salvation Army.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
None. Thank you.
Don't forget, I have the Angels, so just pick up the phone and I'll be coming to see each one of you with the Angels. So, thank you very much.
See you next,
Thank you.
next Wednesday at the Veterans.
So when are the Angels ready?
We've actually been working on them, and we've handed them out. We had requests to get them before Black Friday and online shopping, so they're ready.
Good.
And we're still interviewing.
And if you want to drop those off at our office.
Actually, while we're here, Jack, do you know when you're going to put the tree up at, the Christmas tree from last year for the Angels? Do you know when you're going to be able to get that set up here?
I don't do anything for Christmas till after Thanksgiving.
Okay, so let us know when you can, I'll just drop them off to you when the tree's set up, you can do it. Okay?
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And don't forget, we're losing a week because Thanksgiving is the
So late.
28th. So everything, the whole world is up in its hands because we lost 6 days, and I know it's going to be a rush for everybody, so.
But you can
Again,
drop off the angels before the tree's up, right?
yeah, no.
It's not like people didn't know that it's December 25th. I think it's the same every year.
I have the angels at home, just give me a call and come get them.
All right.
And I'll be passing them around, they'll be in my truck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Interviews and appointments.
None.
Town manager report.
The weekly announcement of existing vacancies. We have 1 regular member and 3 alternate vacancies on the Agricultural Commission, 1 vacancy on the Americans with Disabilities Act Commission, 1 vacancy in the Architectural Preservation District Commission, 1 position on the Finance Committee, 1 vacancy on the Open Space Committee. We have a new vacancy due to the resignation of a Planning Board member, Greg Bittner. He submitted his resignation yesterday, so there will be a vacancy on the Planning Board, which would be a joint appointment between the remaining Planning Board members and the Selectmen at a future meeting. And 1 regular member and 2 associate vacancies on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And talent bank forms are found on the town website and can be obtained from the Board of Selectmen's office.
And they're downstairs too, I think, aren't they?
Yes, yep, multiple locations. Update on the Summer Street Road reconstruction project. The project signage will be installed this week. After the signage is installed, there are only minor punch list items remaining, and there will be very little activity on the site after this week as the project will be substantially complete. Update on the Architectural Preservation District bylaw from the May 2nd, 2015 annual town meeting. As a follow-up to the discussion regarding the 2 definitions that are not in the general code version of the APDC bylaw as voted on May 2nd, 2015 annual town meeting in Article 26. Back in 2015, the version that the town clerk's office submitted to the Attorney General's office for approval was different than what town meeting approved and did not include the last 2 definitions in the definition section. The town clerk has resubmitted the version that was voted at the town meeting to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General has approved that version, and it was posted on October 22nd, according to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 32. Update on MRPC walkability and parking study. I received a draft walkability and parking study from Sherry Bean. She's a principal planner at Montechusett Regional Planning Commission today, and we'll be reviewing it with appropriate department heads. This will be a future agenda item for discussion. I corresponded with Sherry today about potential dates, and we're looking probably at December 3rd, the earliest.
Okay.
Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. The Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs has grant funding available through the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, which provides support for cities and towns to plan for climate change and implement key adaptation actions for resiliency. I'll be working with our consultant that we use for stormwater engineering related services on submitting an application for a planning grant. The planning grant will allow us to complete vulnerability assessments and develop an action-oriented resiliency plan. Communities that complete the MVP program become certified as an MVP community and are then eligible for MVP action plan grant funding, which is up to $2 million per project. We will be submitting an application by the deadline, which is January 15th. As part of an annual risk management property loss grant through our insurance carrier, Maya, I submitted an application for a thermographic camera in the amount of $3,000 for our facilities department. This piece of equipment will be useful to detect heat loss, moisture issues, and whether insulation exists in buildings. We should receive notification by the end of November. I also submitted a reimbursement for recent harassment trainings, the HR audit that was conducted, in OSHA compliance work through a vendor that is offered through another grant through Maya called the Flex Grant. This reimbursement will be for $6,600. Update on 925 Mass Ave. We have successfully received administrative search warrant from the district court to enter 925 Mass staff to perform a Phase 1 site assessment. This had to be served on the owner and the property by the sheriff's office, and this was done last week. I've lined up an environmental consultant to perform the Phase 1 site assessment, and this should begin sometime in November and takes approximately 60 to 90 days. I am also in the process of filing the nomination forms to be one of the communities to be part of the Brownfields Site Assessment Grant Program through Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. MRPC was awarded this grant in June of 2019 and are just beginning the process of accepting applications as they have finalized the selection of the firm that will perform the work. If our application is accepted, this would be to conduct Phase 2 of this site assessment, which is the more costly of the two assessments. And I spoke with the consultant from Beta, is the firm that was awarded the contract through MRPC today, and this project does look eligible for funding, so it's good.
Boy, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Good. Development of the fiscal 21 through fiscal 25 capital plan. Departments received the Google Sheets being used to fill in their fiscal 21 through fiscal 25 capital request. And I've met with the police, fire, and DPW departments individually so far to review the additional categories that will be used by the capital planning committee to evaluate projects. The capital planning committee met with the police and fire chiefs today and will be meeting with the school on November 19th and the DPW director on December 3rd. The fiscal 21 budget process. The fiscal 21 budget process has begun with preliminary budget discussions with various department heads. This year, we will be implementing a new budgeting tool through ClearGov. Departments will be able to input above-target budget requests and track the status of their requests as we move through the budget process. This will allow us to easily see the different iterations and be more efficient than previous Excel budget worksheets. Upcoming meetings, events, and other announcements. We'll be attending a personnel committee meeting at 5:30 and a finance committee meeting at 6:30 on Thursday. Town offices are closed in observance of Veterans Day on November 11th and Thanksgiving on November 28th. The annual tree lighting ceremony at the gazebo will take place on Thursday, December 5th at 6 p.m.
Any questions for the town manager on the report?
No, but thank you for a very informative and thorough report as usual.
And it's great that there are so many grant applications.
That's excellent.
Let's hope we get some.
Yes.
And I don't have questions, just comments. One, for everybody involved in Summer Street, it's really starting to make sense. I mean, Summer Street has never made sense. It's always been wide and awkward and confusing. And anytime I go down it now and the sidewalks and everything, I think that's really nice to have a good outcome there. And I know for a lot of people, it was a long time in the making. And then for 925 Mass Ave, thank you. I know it's one of your specific goals, and it's been that way for so long. It's exciting that it'll move in some other direction.
Yeah,
So
I'm
thank
very
you.
excited for that to move forward.
And I thank you for putting the the tongue twister municipal vulnerability
Yes.
preparedness. That's got to be a
Yes.
sobriety test right there. Okay. Old business. There's no business like old business. Discussion on on November 12th. So next week, of course, is no selectmen meeting. It will be a special town meeting at the middle school, high school auditorium at 7 p.m. sharp. I know the town moderator likes to start on time, and we will have the town meeting articles there, and we will review them, or things that we haven't voted on, I guess, now.
I have a question. Will we be meeting before the meeting?
Yes, we will be posted for 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yep, just in case anything comes up that we need to discuss before the meeting starts.
Okay, great.
So we have in the document of those items for the final booklet. There are 15 articles, so it should not be an overwhelming special town meeting, I don't think. A lot of them are just standard ones. So do we want to go, were there ones that we wanted to review that we haven't recommended? Or are there additions that we should know about here?
I'll just point out a couple of things that may possibly change between now and town meeting. Where new growth has been submitted, we haven't received the certification back yet. We expect it will be this week, and it may be higher than we originally estimated, due to some new captured growth at the Unitil property, of personal property. So it may be slightly higher than the amount that we originally anticipated for new growth. And the recommendation would still be to, whatever that number may be, would be to deposit that into the special purpose stabilization fund.
Okay.
Under Article 2. There are no other changes to the budget transfers. It's still transferring an amount from the assessor's administration expense account to the tax title, so we can do more tax title properties, move those through foreclosure, which will capture more revenue in the long run. And certain adjustments that we talked about prior about the debt. There was, so for the ladder truck, that's delayed till fiscal '21, but we have a pay down amount for the middle school, high school project for this year with principal and interest. So that was a debt change. The sewer enterprise fund article, that was one that the board deferred, I think, because maybe just a lack of clarity. So I put together just a spreadsheet to make it kind of simplified. It's in your Google Drive as Article 3. So the original vote, the funding, how it was worded, the funding came from sewer enterprise revenues in the amount of $675,427.86, and sewer retained earnings for $163,251.14. So the totals are the same, just the amounts are amended. It was an error in the amounts. So the sewer enterprise revenue should have been $665,434.86. Sewer retained earnings of $163, which is the same amount as the May town meeting vote. But there should have been an amount from sewer reserve capacity stabilization.
Does that change the vote now to a 2/3 vote? Because it's a
will because it's
stabilization
special
fund?
town, not because it's but it's an appropriation article, so I think it will be a 2/3 vote, because the special town meeting requires a 2/3 if there's any appropriation made, so. So that hopefully clears up any questions on that.
Yeah, I think we deferred it because we didn't have the numbers. So. It's just, I mean, I could ask the sewer commission and not the meeting, but it's concerning that we're funding the operations of the sewer enterprise fund by taking out stuff from the stabilization fund.
That's typical of their budget.
No, retained earnings, I understand, is typical, not reserve capacity. But I can ask that then. I don't know if anybody else has any questions about this particular article.
Not at this time.
I mean, for me, I'm still going to, for myself, I'm going to defer till I hear from them.
I think that makes sense.
I mean, this is how it's printed. Yes, does it show up
No,
this?
no, that'll be a handout. We have the final booklet in our Google Drive, so that's not there. It's just Article 3 doesn't put any numbers there.
The motion is to reduce the amount from the sewer enterprise revenues by the 9993, and to transfer $9,993 from the sewer reserve capacity stabilization.
Okay.
So the end result is the same number,
Right, but where we're
It's
getting it
where
from
it's
is different.
where the funding sources are from. Okay, so we can,
So we can continue on. 4 we voted on.
and
5 we'll know at the meeting.
the Article 8 was probably the next one that was deferred, that we can discuss tonight as well. And that's the sewer service area.
Right, so we deferred because we didn't know much about this, and I know we've gotten some correspondence. So I don't know if somebody wants to discuss this now or not.
I think,
Well, I guess, we didn't really understand, at the time, we didn't know whether the piece of property could be subdivided. And now it seems clear that the resident at 189 Cross, who has a tight tank, wants to enter into the sewer service area. They are not in the sewer service area, so they're asking that the sewer service area be extended so that they can have relief from the tight tank, which I totally am in favor of. But additionally, they want to add 2 more building lots, which would be unbuildable without connection to the sewer service area. So it would seem that, when the sewer service area was established in a thoughtful manner at the completion of a 3-year study, I think back in 2010, through listening to residents concerned in their vision for Lunenburg, they purposefully said that any changes to the sewer service area had to be made at town meeting, which I totally agree with. So, I guess, I think changing the sewer service area is a big deal. And I can see it in the case of the hardship for the one parcel. But I don't see the driver for enabling development in property that would not be able to be developed without this. It's not in the sewer service area, and
Yeah, I mean, this all, I found out, when this was added, or not added, when it was part of our normal list of articles we were reviewing, I was under the impression, with no other input to guide us, that it was about the one property. And I guess technically, before it's subdivided, it is about the one property. But I want to hear what the intent is, because the intent is important. If somebody is asking town meeting to relieve them because they can't put a Title V system in the property they own because of the soil or because of ledge, that's one thing if they're looking for assistance. But
yes.
if it looking to basically expand the use of the property and make sales of other lots, then I want to hear what's going on before I come to any determination. It was certainly not presented as that, and I think that brings a whole nother perspective that I'd like to hear from the applicant. I understand the things that were sent to us, and I also want to hear from the Sewer Commission, who approved it 4-1. I want to hear from them as well. So I think it's good that it's coming here so we can all be aware that it's not as straightforward as it appeared to be initially. But I also don't want to come to any preconceived notions without hearing from the applicant. And I'm assuming they're going to have engineering to show us there and what their intention is. Mr. Rodriguez. Nervous when you take that off.
I know it does. So I think I'll always do it. Members of the board, Mrs. Lemieux, something came to my attention about this article just today, and I was at the sewer commission meeting as well when they voted 4-1 to accept it. So I'm going to try to make this very simple, and not about subdivisions, and not about development or tight tanks or anything like that. The idea of the sewer service in this particular case was to look at that property and say, I think it's 15 acres or so, it should support a Title V. So, I mean, clearly the engineering company does not perk test every property. We couldn't afford it. So there is, you know, an educated decision that's made on these properties. And since it was decided by the engineering company that they could support these lots with Title V septic systems, the sewer service jumped over that property. Well, the residents have done their due diligence. They've perk tested it. Each perk has been a failure. It's been documented and supported with a letter by the Board of Health that says they've done their due diligence. Their engineer will also reiterate that in his documentation. So, as I spoke to the engineer whose company did this sewer service, and I think first it was in 2006 for a few years, and then it was in 2000 or 2007. Either way, it's been revised once. It can't be perked. So if they had known that when they were putting in the sewer service, they would have said, this property can't support percolation, so it needs sewer. So to me, it's very black and white. This isn't going to be a sewer service because it supports Title V, when in fact, it doesn't support Title V, so it deserves to have sewer service. They can't, you know, it isn't about one lot or three lots, it's about this piece of property, and if that information was known at the time the sewer service was outlined, it would have been in the sewer service. It's known now. Think of it as your property. It's been in their family for generations, okay? They have a home. They've been suffering with a tight tank, somewhere around $600 or $800 a month to pump it out. I understand that there is a sentiment to draw a circle around their house and give them relief, and I think that's a good idea to give them relief, but it also diminishes the reality of the other part of the property. The other part of the property should be in the sewer service by its own criteria. I've got a lot. They bypass it because they say it's subjectively or otherwise determined that I can support it with a Title V if I build on it. Okay. I do my due diligence. I perk test it at my own expense. I prove to the Board of Health that it can't be perked. What am I supposed to do? Not be able to build on it?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
When I look at the sewer service area map in Brown, it looks like nothing on that side of the street is in the sewer service area. So this
Correct.
property wasn't jumped over.
That's correct.
The sewer service area does not include that side of the street.
That's
So
right.
are you suggesting that whole side of the street be included in the sewer
No,
service
I am
area?
absolutely not suggesting that. In fact, it
So,
was
but
mentioned-
I guess I don't
mentioned to
understand
me,
then.
their lots, their property, only their property that's owned by, I believe their name is Millet. There are some big properties to the left and the right in that map, correct? Mm-hmm. And so when the engineer said, well, what about, and I stopped, what about the domino effect? What about the domino effect? Does it mean because these people are going to bring the sewer service up on their own dime, when in fact, hindsight says to me that the town should have brought it up? Well, what about the people that own the property to the left and the people that own the property to the right? Well, they don't automatically get a buy. They have to do their due diligence and prove to the Board of Health with an engineering plan that they can't support a Title V. If in fact they can, then they will not get sewer service. Those are the rules. Those are the regulations. A little oversimplified, but those are the regulations. So to say, Phyllis, that the property on the right or the left of it should get service because they're getting service? Absolutely not. They
So
have to pass
so
this
if I play the same hypothetical game that you are saying here, that if we had known that they would have been sewered,
Mm-hmm.
and what I say to them, to you now is, okay, that, what happens if they could have perked for one house, but the rest of the 15 or 18 acres couldn't perk, so they couldn't subdivide it?
You know,
So that, hold on.
Okay.
Let me complete the thought. So therefore, they wouldn't get 3 lots out of it, which is what it looks like they're proposing. Would that be okay? So as long as they had one perkable area, that would be fine on 15 acres? Or are you saying that if they, because the whole thing is not perkable, that they should get 3 lots out of it? Or actually, presumably, they could get 7 lots out of it if it's 15 acres?
As I understand it, in the map I saw, okay, they have a line that designates, and I think it's 500 feet from the roadway. They're not interested in any development of the backland, as they say. It's also not the article. The article doesn't have anything to do with subdivision at this time. There is no subdivision plan. The people have come forward about their plan, which they, not that they would be clandestine, but they didn't have to. What I'm saying is, in the they did at least 10 perk tests. All failed.
In what area were the perk tests
I
done?
don't have the map.
Okay,
Okay? So, had one of them passed, I guess they could have built a house there. I'm not going to, I didn't mean to interrupt, but what I was going to say at that point was, I'm not going to speculate on what if, I'm just going to give you the facts. This is what happened. The lot does not support, the whole lot, without subdivision, does not support percolation tests.
and I get that.
Okay. If, with hindsight being 2020, if the engineer, as he spoke to me today, they would have looked at that and said, yes, this should be sewered.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may sort of ask a
Now,
question or
One second, Kay. This is, and then it's up to him whether to subdivide it, and then it's
No.
up to the planning board and
That's
whatever.
where I think we disagree. I think it's up to the town to decide whether he gets to subdivide it. We could certainly work it into the article.
I don't
Again,
think we
as a
should work it into the article. The article is as the article is. It's that,
Are you saying I can't amend the article?
No.
Okay, so then we can modify the article. Again, this is all hypothetical. This is just something we have to discuss. It certainly is possible for the town as an entity to say, we see the position you're in, and we want to help, but part of that assistance is, it's got to stay as one lot. I mean, it may not be, there's an argument to be made. I'm not saying I'm making it. I'm making a hypothetical. There's an argument to be made that while we want to help you, we don't want to necessarily promote the development of land that wouldn't otherwise be buildable.
Right,
I don't see that the town may want to do that.
right.
So
Well,
therefore,
I
we
don't know.
could put a restriction and say, we'll help you for one house on that property, but it'll be restricted to that one property.
Well, sure.
Yes,
And I think-
Mr.
And if the town supports that, I'm sorry, interrupted you, go ahead.
Oh, no, what I'm thinking of is the same type of hypotheticals, and I know other people have tight tanks, but that's not a good outcome for any homeowner. But what I'd be thinking of if I was in a butter with a large parcel with a septic tank, well, I would want to be able to have sewer so I could subdivide my land. And I think that's the nuance of the problem, is aside from having a homeowner have a quality outcome with a septic system, if I was in a butter with a large parcel, I'd say, well, I've got a septic, but I've got, 10 acres, I want sewer so I can subdivide. I think we set a precedent that people can ask for sewer to subdivide, and where do you draw a line? I think you draw it here and you don't set the precedent.
I think you draw the line whether the property will perk or not.
Yes.
But like Phyllis had said, where were the perks? And on a parcel that large, you could do a bunch of perks in one area that are going to fail.
Well,
And
listen,
maybe if you had done it on the other
Well, let's
side
just
of the
take
lot,
it, let's
you
just
passed.
take it.
We don't know.
Let's take it on its face that it failed. Let's just say for some reason they're on a big thing of ledge and it failed. The point is it failed. I'm fully sensitive and attentive to that problem they have, and I want to address the problem.
How many acres is the lot?
About
15 or 18.
So they checked, they perked all 15 acres?
Well, generally you wouldn't do that, but you have
think
some
they
limit.
Well, if you
Perked it to
needed a
the sat-
septic, you might,
They perked
A
it
lot
to
of
the
perking.
satisfaction of the Board of Health.
okay.
But the point is that, that doesn't make, we could, without extending development, we could say, yeah, we see your position and we'll grant you the ability to extend at your cost to your property. But the trade-off is you agree through a deed restriction that you won't subdivide the property, that will not, those other divided properties will not be sewered. We are sewering 189. If there are any other addresses that come from it, they don't get sewered.
Because if their intent is
That's
to
just
help,
something to put forward.
yeah, if their intent is to fix their problem
Right.
at their site,
It's-
they've changed their intent by looking to develop. It changes the circumstances and it's spreading of sewers spreads development, and there's a lot of implication there, and that's why people very carefully set up sewer zones in the first place.
Mr. Rodigans, you mentioned that the vote was 4-1 on the sewer commission. What was the one person who didn't support it? What was their reason?
I'm not going to speak for him. He's very articulate and could speak for himself. It mirrors Phyllis's comments since they're husband and wife. She says what he probably would have said, so that's the closest I can get to you on that. I'm not going to speak for a member of any commission. What my job here, let me take it to a wider scope. My job here is to help people. It's a charge of the sewer commission not to deny or entice development. Enable, perfect word. Enable or stop development. So that, I guess, to me, I think if it was my property, okay, he's not interested in, and I believe there's some caveat that he may sign something. He's not interested in developing. He is interested in 2 lots. I mean, put yourself in that position. Who the hell are we to say what he can do with his property? It didn't pass. If it passed, he'd perk it and have a house lot there if subdivision was enabled by the planning board or powers to be. We're not talking.
I think it sounds, and maybe inadvertently, but it sounds like you think we're opposed to it. All I'm saying is that the way the article was presented didn't have some of these other nuances that I think it's going to be important to hear from the engineer and the homeowner about what their intent is.
Yeah, that's fine.
All I'm saying.
That's fine. I just, I take, in this particular case, I take the position to help these folks, getting to know them,
I want to do the same thing.
and I just don't think it's fair, if there is such a thing anymore, that we should say, no, you own 15 acres and we'll help you with this
Mr.
one lot, which you're at, because tight tanks, can you even imagine? But no, you can't build a house over there.
So our objective,
Hold on, Mr.
Mr. Chair, I think one thought comes to mind. I mean, obviously we're discussing helping a homeowner with a septic crisis versus spreading the potential for development. But either way, I don't think this is the platform for debate since it's a town meeting article. I think we just
Good point.
give it a week and we'll
Good
let
point.
it play out at town meeting. So
Yeah,
I think
'cause-
we're investing a lot of time here in something that
We
we're
are.
going to reinvest in next week.
Yeah.
And we all already obviously have opinions and it's not going to get decided
Yeah,
here.
and I guess if finally it won't be me or you, or it'll be the whole group
Yeah.
at that forum, as it should be.
And then they can hear all this from us
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
yay and nay and
That's a good point.
well, that was my question, was what is our objective with this conversation?
Just to hear to introduce the new information.
so we can get ready to go.
I didn't realize speaking about 15 minutes about something that had new information was a waste of anybody's time, but for that, I apologize
I don't
to
think we
anybody.
called
I
it a
don't think-
wasted time.
You're not
I
wasted
think
my
I'm-
time.
So
I
it's
mean,
not- you said
I'm here
it's not
to.
the venue. I'm like, I thought that it's on our agenda to speak about articles that we haven't spoken about, that new information
Mr.
is coming
Chair,
to.
we don't need to get snarky about the fact that we are just here to present information, but the decision's next week. That was my only point. I didn't say it wasn't valid time. I was just saying.
Okay, I haven't
this
given
isn't
you a
our
lot of
platform.
facts, so I'll end with, is there any question that I can help you with?
Well, before that, I mean, the other part of my questions, are we looking to make a recommendation tonight?
No.
All right, so we're just trying to get more information on this.
I wanted to alert people at town meeting or in preparation of town meeting, that this article has more to it than what is stated
Yeah.
in the article itself.
I agree with that. I think that that's a really good point. You know, I'm in a sewer zone and I don't have sewer, and I'm really sick of paying betterment fees, but I don't have really an option to do it. So what what concerns me in this case largely is exactly as every other member has really referred to, which is that once you have a bit of property that's now going to get sewer, and everyone else around it doesn't have sewer, and what concerns me then is two parts, which is number one is if the town wants to collect more money and then expands the sewer zone to properties that don't want it, and then now they're paying for it, or if it expands it into these other areas because someone comes up and says, hey, I want it too, I'm across the street, that now we're taking an area that a lot of people have bought into a lot of times because of the look of things. Yeah, you can't tell someone else what to do on their property, but when you buy a place knowing that there's no sewer there and that, you're looking across the street at a bunch of woods, and then the town allows sewer to be expanded to one lot, which inadvertently then allows 12 more lots to be created in that area. I mean, that changes your quality of life. And, this is an area in town on Cross Street where I know that, people really like living there, as probably everywhere is in town. But, I live next to land, and I can relate to those other people. So, I mean, I think that as we heard this the first time, it was a very limited scope of, hey, I have a problem here. I want to get sewer, and it's just going to help me out. And now that scope has broadened, and we're looking at a map with, 6 parcels on it out of this one.
No, just
3 parcels out of this piece of land, and then you're looking across the road there at an even larger parcel. I mean, that is concerning. And so now the question, as Mr. Alonso mentioned, is more than just bringing sewer to this one person. It's how do you reasonably bring sewer to this one person while also restricting it everywhere else around there? And I don't know how we do that.
I understand. You articulated that well. We do it by the way we've always done it, which is, across the street, by the way, is sewer. Does it pass the criteria? Does it support a Title V? And I don't want to really.
Does that work in reverse, where someone says, hey, my land can support a Title V, do I get out of sewer?
No, I mean, if
No.
it went in front of you, no. No, you don't. Betterments are betterments. This is not a betterment.
I think you're looking to get out of that bed.
I certainly am.
And,
And as you should.
I'm sick of paying it.
so it's surfaced that there's these proposed 2 other lots, but I don't know the zoning specifics of this area, but could they potentially, once they have sewer there, propose more than 2 lots?
Well, that's
in addition?
again, that's
And
exactly
so
something.
we're opening
I
up
don't
a
know.
blank slate,
I don't know.
and so we've proposed 2 lots because that feels comfortable, but maybe we're imagining
Right.
7.
Yeah, or maybe we're
And
not.
traditionally, and this is something we have
Safe
to
and
really
sorry.
look into, traditionally, when another department brings up an article like this, they usually come before the Board of Selectmen not to be before the board, but to be in front of the TV to
Sure.
explain what I'm explaining now. I would have assumed that the Sewer Commission would have come before the Board of Selectmen since they submitted this article
As-
and discussed it, is what had traditionally happened.
As would I. I was asked 2 hours ago to stand in, so that's what I've
You
tried
asked
to
on
do.
behalf of the Sewer Commission?
No, me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Just so
Because the person or whatever couldn't make it,
the
so
chairman couldn't make it.
I thought
so.
I'd
Well, I was going to ask you how you were standing here, because I didn't understand how the DPW director, although obviously you work with sewer in the department, how you would weigh in on this, so, okay.
okay,
Oversees that department.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just another
sure.
point of information I think the director was referring to when you said they were going to sign some sort of document. The engineer, Bill Hannigan,
Bill Hannigan, yeah.
said that the Millettes were going to be deed restricting those lots once they were created.
Well, that's what I want to hear. I mean, there's a lot to be discussed on this article.
And I didn't feel
Just a
comfortable
point of information.
saying that
I'm just
because it
sharing.
hasn't been said to me. It comes second or third hand, so
That
I,
would have to be done
like you
before.
always ask me to do, I tried to stay to the facts,
To
but
be part
I
of
always
it.
get off on a
You
tangent.
know, it would have to, the deed restriction would have to already be in place.
Exist.
No, it
Because
would be-
you can change your mind.
Well, you can make it part of the article. We're going to have to talk to our town council and anything, what's legal and what's not. I mean, that's important. Because what people say they're going to do and what they have a legal right to do are very different. So I want to make sure that whatever we say and whatever we have town meeting vote on is what's enforceable. So that's the important part.
Heather, will town council be there at 6 for the pre-meeting?
Yes.
Okay, then I think that if, we should probably make sure we really understand if this is being amended or if we're putting on stipulations, if we could ask him
Yep,
to
we'll
be
seek
able
that
to weigh
answer
in on
before
that.
then. Yep.
Well, I hope I haven't added to the confusion.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so then we go to, what's the next articles here? We've recommended on 9. We've recommended on 10. 11 is the famous earth removal permitting process.
I think Butterfly Lane is, Butterfly Lane, Article 12 is the next one that was deferred. And I don't know if you wanted to wait to that.
Did we get any more information on what it costs the town to accept a road?
There was an estimate for the stormwater drains.
Cleanage,
Yeah,
right,
the
the cleaning.
cleaning. And,
$1,200 a year?
Something like that, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I was asked by the town manager to, estimate, and this is going to be very difficult because it's a new road, and it probably won't need pavement for, let's hope 12 to 15 years. It did cost them $32,000 to put the top coat on, which we will look at it as we do now in the pavement management plan and catch it before it needs a base coat and a top coat. So, however you want to, escalate that today's cost at $32,000. If you put 3% on top of it for the next 10 years, typically that's what we do with the capital plan. So it comes to us as a $32,000 bill today. Certainly, it will be more as things inflate. In terms of the storms
$32,000 for paving?
in 2019. I don't know how we would, Phyllis, look at, 2030 and say what that cost would be without some sort of universal increment. The storm scepter was, in today's money, $650 to clean that, because it gets, as we've spoken about before, a specialized truck charges a 4-hour minimum. Would we do some other things? I don't know, but specific to that. And that would typically be done, once a year. There's granite curbing, there's curbing, so there shouldn't be a lot of runoff that gets into that. There are at least 2 retention ponds. By way of our stormwater best management practices, we'll have to clean those once a year or every couple of years. That's, pretty much done in-house. Difficult to put a number on that. It's always been difficult. To Mr. Bowen's point many years ago, what is it going to cost us to do that? That's the best I can give you, only today's prices.
Sure.
In terms of what percentage of the plowing, geez, I don't know what percentage of the salt that we use. Certainly there'd be a cost there, but it's a very short road, so the cost, if pressed, I could give you a number in terms of hundreds or thousands over what kind of winter, a bad winter, a good winter. Certainly every time we take on a new road, there's an expense to the town and the taxpayers in perpetuity.
I want to ask, how many homes are on this road?
Geez, I think 7.
All right.
I'm going to say less than 10.
So
Yeah.
I think something that I think that we need to think about is what the tax revenue is from these 7 homes versus this cost of doing this. Because what really concerns me is on the development side is to be able to create these kinds of properties to make massive amounts of money and to walk away with an abnormally large expense to the town.
Drop it in their lap, so to speak.
Exactly. You're exporting your
Just think if they had sewer.
and I think that some of this analysis perhaps should be I know the planning board doesn't consider the finances of things, but I think that there should be some probably awareness to them for when they approve these things, just what the actual cost is to the town.
I don't disagree. It's been bantered around for a number of years. We don't have a lot of new roads being accepted, but certainly on a regular basis.
And the answer before, because I asked the question if this was a condo association, I was told
It's
no.
not. No.
No, if it was a condo association like Cortlandt Circle, then they would own the street.
Yeah.
As well as the maintenance and any kind of
I mean,
rehabilitation.
Out of curiosity, I know we don't necessarily know the answer to this. What was when the people? What's the plan? How are they currently taking care of this? If they don't have an association, what are they currently doing?
Until the road's accepted, because it's built to subdivision standard, that's
Yeah.
a given.
Yeah.
Inspected along the way, and finally inspected by a peer engineer to make sure it was built to standard. They had a very small punch list, and they went at it aggressively. So they followed all the rules, so to speak.
Yeah, but how are they,
Until it's accepted, to get to your question, it's incumbent upon the developer to maintain the road.
Okay.
He has plowed the road, he has salted the road, he has cleaned the drains, he has done whatever. I
so
think
the
people-
owners, the people who live on this road, then do not have an expense. The expense is currently just on the developer.
Well, the expense, would you look at property tax as an expense?
I guess what I'm saying
But
is,
the town isn't, the
The
property
maintenance-
tax,
Just the maintenance.
as far as who's plowing it,
oh, the plowing of the road.
the plowing of the road, and who's going to be repaving this right
they-
now. If we don't accept it, who's going to do
Okay.
that?
It's never happened, so I'm speculating. I would speculate that it would return to it would still be the ownership of the developer.
Okay.
Right.
So that's almost even better.
Yes.
So I mean, the owners of the road aren't having any negative impact if this is a road or not a road. It's just a matter of how long the developer has to continue to pay for this.
Right, they're still being served.
Okay, perfect. All right, that makes my.
It would be good, by the way, just to do, if we could, because at the end of the year, we know what the cost for salt is, you know how much we
Yep.
paid in labor for plowing, and we know how many road miles we have. It would be good to just do that every year, do that very, very coarse calculation to come up with, this is how much it costs to sand, and this is how much it costs to plow on an average year,
Yeah.
what we have.
Actually, we have a good baseline for that, because
Yeah.
when we had the storms and we had to apply to FEMA, we do have a
Oh,
lot
right,
of that
right.
information.
Yeah,
but,
so that'd be good to know. So when this comes up, we know how long the road is, so we know, what to estimate.
We could do it, so I said if pressed.
Yeah.
What would it be? We could come up with something if necessary.
Well, just, I mean, in the budget with Karen, I guess you could just come up with an annual thing, just, all the numbers are in her annual budget, the line items probably don't change.
Sure.
So if Karen has a formula, you just generate it, and then every year you could come up with those numbers, right?
Yeah, as long as people
So-
understood it was an estimate.
Yeah.
Then sure.
Well, and the
Lots of
snow-
variables,
The
right?
snow, right, the snow amount
Lot
varies.
of variables. in
Lots
the-
of variables,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, snow amount changes, cost of gasoline changes, I know, cost of salt and,
Hey, take a
Sand.
snapshot of that one period in
at
time.
least it'll give us that rough estimate.
Absolutely. We
Cool,
can do that. Okay? Thanks.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Article 13. The big thing we have to do on Article 13 is who's presenting this article? Two members of the board wanted to present this. We all, I think, voted for it, but who is going to actually make the presentation for this article?
How do you want to do this?
In the past, whenever Old Primary or the conveyance articles are up, the town manager does the presentation of the information.
But
So I'd be comfortable with that.
I don't know that it's
I've
town
never
manager.
seen a selectman present articles of the board. The town manager, anytime the selectmen have proposed a conveyance article or anything to do with these buildings, Heather, so far as I've been involved, has always presented the information from TAPE or anything else. So I think it would be fitting that she would present the slideshow.
I'm also really comfortable presenting this article.
I
Yeah.
don't know why we're breaking the norm.
I don't know that we've ever had a non-binding resolution. I mean, anything else has been the business of the town to actually effectively and by binding vote, do something. This is asking for a straw poll that the board generally, either a commission, like those conveyance articles were submitted by the building reuse and the board, because that's what that body was designed to do, accepted them. So that's
Okay.
one thing, but this is something that the board ourselves wanted to put on here.
The Board of Selectmen have submitted this article, as all the other articles I mentioned, like the land conveyance articles, were submitted by the Board of Selectmen, and then Heather
On behalf-
presented on them.
Yeah, but on behalf of the building reuse work.
So can you come up with any time individual selectmen have done a slide presentation? It's usually Heather and Adam and such that present the data, but I would be happy to do it as well. I just don't understand why we're
Well, I
breaking
think
the
the
norm.
town manager's put together the slideshow, but I don't see what she's going to do except reiterate the slideshow. She's not going to speak in favor of any one way or another.
Okay, I'd be happy to present the slideshow since I asked for it, and
Okay.
I'm
And Mr. Jeffries, if you want to work with Mrs. Adams on that, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to be of assistance.
And you have the slideshow is?
Yeah, I
you
had
have all
forwarded
the
it to the board.
But you'll have it loaded and prepared and ready like it usually
Yeah,
will
it'll be on her computer, so she'll have everything, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so then home rule, the last two are the liquor licenses. So I think that concludes that, unless anybody has any other thing about special town meeting.
Nope.
Okay, then we go to discussion, current business, discussion on the survey for the reuse of the old primary building land that Mr. Jeffries put together in our Google Drive.
So I'll speak about it a little bit while we're all pulling it up. So the way that I formatted this was I alphabetized the list, so that way there would be no preference over any of the types over one way or the other. I also formatted the descriptions to be the same, identifying what the primary purpose of each one is. As an example, the parking lot with green space, to identify that the primary purpose is serve as a parking lot for community events. Town center provide parking for future uses of the Ritter Building. That's an example. And then I also I kept them all to about two or three sentences, and they end with a note about what will be required to effectuate that. So as an example, with the parking lot, there's a note that it will require demolishing the building and conducting site work to regrade, plant grass and shrubs or trees, and building an expanded parking lot. I avoided any notations to value of what these may potentially cost. In here, and then also at the very beginning, this is a ranked choice survey, so asking the owners, it's not the owners, the property owners to voters to rank each option 1 through 6, utilizing 1 being the preferred option and 6 being the least preferred. So for the people at home, the survey notes 6 options based on our conversation, our workshop last time, with a parking lot with green space, senior housing, a small business building, a town green, a town hall, or a town hall conversion.
I'm reading quickly the difference between town hall and town hall conversion.
Yeah, the difference is the town hall would be demolishing the existing
Oh, okay,
building.
demolish the existing building and rebuilding. Okay,
Correct.
gotcha. So new town hall versus, okay, gotcha. Thank
So
you.
I was wondering if we could change hall to town offices, just because with the confusion of this building being called town hall. When I was reading through it, I was thinking if it said town offices, primary purpose would be to function as new town offices and eliminate the need for town offices at other sites or something like that. And the town hall conversion, I think having the word renovation would help. In terms of when you see the bold-faced title to say, okay, what is town hall conversion? Renovate old primary into town offices.
So you're saying changing the,
Just the title so that you know immediately, just like the chair, okay, what's with the 2 town halls? I think if one said renovate old primary into town offices and one said new site for new construction of town offices.
yeah.
So that it's very clear, because town hall, like I said, people's minds immediately go to the fact this building is called town hall and it's not involved in this survey at all. So I think dropping hall and adopting the word offices will help.
I think that whatever the primary building of our government is a town hall, that's the name for it. And at the very top of this, it says Old Primary School Ranked Choice Survey, and it identifies that we're soliciting feedback on what to do with the old primary school. So I hear what you're saying, but I compiled this list based on the workshop that we did. And the workshop that we did, the language we utilized was town hall.
And, I feel like if we just put town offices, people are going to say, yeah, but what's going to be town hall? Are we going to keep the town hall?
No, but I mean, that we're not even saying that, I mean, I did a lot of work in my background with healthcare literacy and communication, and so I look at things to bring out the highest amount of clarity to the largest amount of people. And the fact that the chair immediately went to that as a question tells me that my instinct that those labels are a little confusing is represented by Tom's question. I don't know why.
Is that confusion remedied by the description?
Well, what percent of people, and when you study literacy and surveys, you get a certain amount in terms of how verbose you are. Not everybody's going to take it in, so the label is the most important part of the survey, the bold part. So I think town hall conversion, what does that mean? We've never used that term, but if we said renovate into town offices, to me it's just more clear. Town hall conversion or renovate into town offices. I just think it's got more clarity to say renovate into town offices. And then instead of just saying town hall, the site of new town offices, so that people understand that it's that way. Then you read, oh yes, demolish. That is what it's saying.
So you could put under town hall conversion, you could begin with renovation of the existing structure to be town offices. So keep town hall conversion, but then have the first word be renovation.
Now, we could change that, but I think I was trying to keep the format of every one of them the same by identifying what the primary purpose of it is.
I don't have any strong feeling one way about town hall or town offices, but I do know that the last two need to be separated out, and I think the one word that's come up definitely is that I would change the word conversion to renovation. So I think one of the things you do is put town hall and in parentheses new, town hall parentheses renovation.
But as a bold-faced thing, people might think we're asking if we want them to renovate this. And I want to avoid that being where people's minds go. If somebody's just quickly answering this survey and people...
It's like font 28 that says Old Primary School Ranked Choice Survey.
No, I know, but people might be like, I would love to see a town hall renovation. If it says town hall renovation, I'd be like, you bet I do. I'd love to see this building look like Sturbridge Village. And I'm, thinking of this.
I'd like to give the voters a little more credit.
It's not about voters, it's about literacy and making something that's easily understandable. And
the literacy of the voters?
This building's called Town Hall. And we're using the term town hall. We even have it capitalized. It just, to me, I think it's just easy enough to say town offices, and then people have to read, because what does that mean? I don't understand why it's even debatable. Offices is it's just, this is town hall. I think it's.
Maybe I'm very confused. So with the town hall, the note, changing that to say town hall in parentheses new, and then changing town hall conversion and changing the word conversion to renovation. Is that something that the majority of the board supports?
Yes, I would support that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. That, again, I'm not getting into the town hall, town offices debate. I understand both sides. I don't have a strong feeling on either way. But there's got to be a way to distinguish what the purposes of those last two. I think putting new and renovation in parentheses after them. It is titled, I mean, I understand your point, Mr. Jeffries, that it is titled Old Primary School, Ranked Choice Survey, so, but again, how much do people, even a one-pager, how much do people read? That's a great question.
Now, Ms. Adams also brought up a point about the word modernizing that's listed throughout, because I did not put the word renovating in here. Should we change the word modernize to renovate?
Where?
So
Small
modernize,
business building.
it's in most of them. It's in, yeah.
Yeah, probably renovate would be simpler.
Well, if you're going to say town hall, again, the last one, if you're going to say renovation, if you use renovation again.
Yeah,
it's gonna-
renovation is more extensive to me. I mean, modernize, you're kind of upgrading things. Renovation usually means more extensive.
All right.
But we
Turn
know,
it into solid.
we know we need a renovation.
So we don't,
Right.
sweeping that under the rug. There's no modernizing that building without doing some serious.
And, you know, if you're turning it into senior housing, it's more than modernizing. Right?
All right, so change the word modernize to renovate or modernizing to renovating were found.
I also wasn't sure if on a quick read, it really stuck out that what we've heard from like the Architectural Preservation District and other people, that if something is to happen there, a lot of people feel strongly that they'd want to see the building maintained. So even though it's built into the description, I feel like I'd want it to jump out a little bit more, senior housing using existing structure to come right out so that people understand that. I mean, because we've seen, you know, going back a few years, drawings of, 60 apartments on the site with no primary building. So when people are selecting this, I think I'd want them to know very clearly that they're talking about these uses in the building.
So a way to write that would be perhaps to put in parentheses after the titles, existing
In
Yeah,
existing
use existing
structure.
building or
Existing.
demolition of existing
or
building.
demolition
Yeah,
of existing.
yeah, that'd be good.
Because I know that's where debate comes out, and so if people feel like they're going to have the facade of that building maintained, then that might help them understand the way they feel about future use. The other thing I wrote down was, I think I might be in favor of combining the parking lot with green space and the town green, because I think they're sort of the same use, because they both say green space and parking lot. And so if I'm going through this, I'm kind of like parking lot with green space or green space with a parking lot, because at the end of town green, it says the primary purpose would be a new town green and or park for community events, demolishing the building, conducting site work to regrade, and repaving the parking lot. So both outcomes are green and parking, and so I think we consolidate the survey to 5 and drop having those two very similar items.
Well, I don't support that. I think that the difference between, we had this conversation at our workshop, and we distinctively drew a difference here. With the town green idea is to have a town green, and a parking lot idea is to have a parking lot. And I think that the description, as I presented the parking lot idea, was that you would basically expand that parking lot to the footprint of the existing building, which is more than, and then using the backside of that building just as kind of a green space, and not being necessarily parking lot area. Whereas the idea of a town green is going to need a lot more space than what a parking lot. So in other words, what I'm saying is, with that current building, demolishing it, what's going to be there in either scenario is different. In a town green, that's going to be green space. In a parking lot, that's going to be a parking lot.
I don't know the exact square footage of the danger triangle with the gazebo that we have now as our common, but I've walked this land a lot, and along the right-hand side of Old Primary and behind Old Primary, there's a lot of green space. Whether you use the site of Old Primary for more parking or not, I'd really want an engineer to look at what the correct amount of parking would be in these scenarios. So the nuance of how much parking there is versus how much green space in either scenario, I think is decided by parking needs, and we're having, parking studies and can expand on that. I just think for the sake of the survey, they're almost giving the same option, and I think it would be a faster, cleaner survey if you, they're very similar.
But
We don't know
where
where
we
we're.
left off last week, though, was distinctively different options of a town green being one option and a parking lot with some green space being a different option. So that's where we've already had this conversation. We've come up with lists. I didn't pull this out of the sky. This is what we came up with last time, and it's just been formulated into a survey.
I guess I've been advocating for the town green for a long time, and always as a portion of that, people talk about the importance of the parking lot being there for accessibility. You'd have ADA access to the green space, et cetera. So there's also the portion of the lot that has the easement to the Historical Society, which mandates sort of at this point that parking retains. They're currently paving some of it, in conjunction with the Ritter lot right now, which I think is naturally expanding parking in the area. So I really feel like green space with a parking lot and a parking lot with green space are so similar. I don't know how.
Well, the emphasis is on the first part. So the emphasis on the first one is that we're going to emphasize the parking lot because it says expanding the parking lot is the last part of that expanded parking lot. And we'll have some green space, whereas a town green actually means that that's going to be the focus, is going to be a town green.
I think in the
Seeking
wording.
what's the importance of each potential project, whether parking is the importance, looking at our parking study, is that, or, is town green versus what came out of the open space plan? Like, what is the most important and what people value and what they want to see happen with that land?
And it is a nuanced difference, but I think that what you get from this is, without knowing anything else, primary purpose would be to serve as a parking area for community events in town center and provide parking for future uses of the Ritter building. Whereas a town green is noted as a primary purpose would be as a new town green and or a park for community events. That, I think that what's clear is that all these options include some form of a parking lot, but the parking lot option is making it a really big parking lot.
And that is what we decided at the last meeting.
Yes, as a distinctively different option.
Right.
I don't think anybody would see that whole thing as being paved. That feels super dramatic. I don't remember discussing that the entire lot would be paved. We discussed that it would be paved along with green space, which accomplishes the same thing as having green space with a parking lot. I guess I just like to simplify again. It's just I did some work with literacy as it relates to healthcare, but the more simplified a survey is and the more understandable, the easier it is to take the data and use it. When you have two things on here that are practically the same thing, just written in an opposite direction, I just went through it and looked at it from the point of view of making it more understandable, quicker to read.
The concept you have, though, for a town green is not what I presented as a parking lot idea. That there's two distinctively different ideas.
Well, and I think they're both delineated in the first sentence of either one, what the primary purpose is. The primary purpose of the town green would be to serve as a new town green and/or park for community events, whereas the primary purpose of the parking lot with green space would be to serve as a parking area for community events. So the primary purpose is parking for one, and town green is another.
But Mr. Chair, I'm just saying after several years of working on the town green concept, one of people's affinity to the area is that there would be parking for the green. So parking's just a part of it. I don't think anybody proposes it all as grass. What makes it a good site is that there would be parking for the green, whereas the gazebo currently has no parking. It doesn't make sense to me to have two items on a survey that are basically offering the same thing.
But they're not.
Are we ready to vote on this?
I don't know,
Do we not need to vote?
it's an informal survey,
Yeah.
we could vote.
Will
If somebody feels
will it be
the
a Survey
necessity.
Monkey survey?
No.
No, this is gonna be, this sheet will be printed at
It'll
town
just be
meeting.
at town meeting.
So the changes so far that we've agreed to is town hall, adding in the word new in parentheses, town hall conversion, adding in the word replacing conversion with renovation. After each description, making a note in parentheses of using the existing building or making a note of demolition of existing building. And then throughout, changing the word modernize, all forms of modernize to forms of renovate.
Yes.
On the last one, instead of town hall renovation, renovation into town hall would read more clearly into people not misconstruing it as the town hall renovation. So renovation into town hall.
Fine with me. I would not change the order of alphabetical, keep the two town hall things next
Yeah,
to
the
each
order
other.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
but-
mean, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that change.
Okay.
Renovation to town hall. Yep.
Now, do we want to, because it is alphabetized, do we want to keep the two town hall
No,
hall
I just
options?
said keep the two together.
All right, got it.
And just, just for
Maybe
a
nobody
visual.
will notice that.
Just for a visual, put some extra, an extra blank line in between all the choices so people know that they have to mark all 6.
All right.
No, it's a good idea.
Meaning between each section,
Yeah,
adding
between
just
each
more
section.
spacing between?
Yeah, just one more blank line, yeah.
All right. So renovation to town hall.
Yep. Yeah, that makes it clearer.
Great.
All right, any other questions about that? Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank
You're
you
very
much.
welcome.
Discussion on the symposium held on October 29th. Anybody have any discussion they would like to say about it? I don't know. It was just here as a placeholder to give some kind of forum for discussion if we wanted to.
Well, you know, I had one question on the land use director's PowerPoint. Under total population, he put that 2017 5-year estimate as a spike.
That's an actual, yeah.
And it's, you know, we don't have 11,000 people yet. So that just seems,
Actually, I think we do.
no, the town manager said it was 10,000 something.
That was the number that the town clerk uses. That's the number I use for what the town clerk reports. The number in the land use director's presentation comes from the census, and it's an estimate used by that organization. It's the ACS.
Yeah, it's the American Community Survey.
Yes.
But it's done by the same federal department.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, I just got
It is.
mine. I was one of the members for this coming census. I was one of the lucky recipients of the
Yeah.
American Communities Survey. I felt so fortunate.
So that's
just
what's
think-
reported on the federal
Yeah.
ACS survey.
It doesn't really make sense, though, because the population hasn't really spiked and isn't going to go down. You know, I just think it,
Without me bringing it up, let me just see where he has it.
Yeah, he's just
So
pulling
we're
that
definitely,
data from.
we're definitely over 10.5 already. So these are the projections that from previous studies. So these three, nobody's thinking that from 2007, the 5-year estimate, it's going to go down in 2020. I mean, so
No.
these numbers are there to show what the projections were when those estimates were made. I don't know what surveys from years ago.
It was MRPC.
I think so. Was yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it was. When they did total build out, they did a whole thing about 8 or 9 years ago.
Yes, and that was a point that
This is what they
hopefully we
predicted.
made clear that the projections that we have are way underreported.
Right.
So we don't have any valuable data to show us what the projections will be.
Right.
I would just say in terms of the symposium, I think it's a good tradition to have a meeting that is a collective group to sort of kick off what is budget season. I think is a good first step in what can probably become a bit of a tradition and, you know, sort of enhance it. Hopefully there'd be more people that would attend it as it becomes something people grow used to because it sort of fills that need of launching a budget season, and being hosted by the finance committee does give it that sense of a kickoff. So I think it made sense. I liked it. My only comment that was sort of swirling around in my brain after were both yourself and Adam talked about the 2017 projections with a decline in 5 to 9-year-olds in 2017. But then Dr. Burnham talked about last year's kindergarten class. So the 5-year-olds in 2018 were the largest incoming class ever. So the decline being seen by these projections or extrapolated data is opposite of what's actually happening in the schools, which was just sort of an interesting point.
Yeah, it was interesting to us too when we're looking at that data.
Yeah, because both kindergarten last year and this year, which are 5-year-olds and now 6-year-olds, right in that range of alleged decline, we're seeing an uptick in students. I don't know if that's because enrollment's up. There could be a decline in people in that age group, but an uptick in that group choosing to enroll in Lunenburg. And it might be a change in enrollment and not population, but still something sort of interesting because they were opposites of each other in the presentations. But other than that, like I said, I think it makes a good kickoff for the budget season, and it was nice to have something that was full of information and data that everybody can kind of mull over. So thank you.
Yeah, as I said then, I like the fact that it's all a standard baseline. I mean, I'll reiterate most of what Mrs. Adams said. I mean, I think it was good that everybody starts from the same starting point. And yeah, there were some interesting data points, but of course, as any data, unless you're going to do an absolute head count, which of course is impossible in population, you know, who's done the survey, how the survey was done, how the count was done, it fluctuates, so you really got to take the average of all of them. But it does give us good data to start with, especially the impact that your presentation had about the sensitive areas of budget due to population changes, and also in the schools, so those were very important. Okay, minutes.
There.
We have minutes from September 3rd. Thank you, Jack.
Good night.
Good night.
That's the water commitment. They're both
Water Department.
water commitment for the water enterprise. The billing for the water enterprise.
For the Water Department.
We don't have
Ta-
water department per se, but it's the billing that we do for that.
Right.
Yeah, the water enterprise,
We-
yes.
Yeah, we do have a Water Department. But, yes. Okay, so this is for $6,998.88. Dated as well, or just sign it? It says sign and date.
No.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Yep. Reading is fundamental, I guess. And this is for the taxes of the and payroll in the amount of $795,126.41. Payroll deductions warrant in the amount of $281,396.88. And accounts payable in the amount of $579,454.27. Anybody have any action file issues? I do want to thank the DPW director for beginning and doing a large portion of the line paving. So that was excellent. It really has made it much, much more visible. I didn't get a chance to thank him here. But because I brought it up under action items, I want to thank him under action items.
Well, and especially tonight, it was even foggy, so it was even better.
Yeah, it really was.
It was very noticeable. Nice change.
Committee reports.
The Stormwater Task Force met on October 24th. We're asking people to fill out that survey. There's also an informative leafleter flyer on the website with hard copies at the library, town hall, and the senior center. We can all help by keeping the storm drains near our homes clear of leaves and debris so they don't get clogged and become ineffective. The Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, of which Lunenburg is a member, will have its annual meeting on Thursday, November 14th. All are invited to attend. This meeting will feature a presentation by several communities that have instituted stormwater utilities or enterprise funds as mechanisms for funding the compliance with the MS4 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System permit outside of the town budget by implementing a separate fee for all property owners. That's outside of taxes, so it'd be interesting to see. what those communities, some communities have had them in effect for a few years, and some are just starting out. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about those.
Excellent.
I would just say, listening to that, thank you for, I mean, you've been working on Stormwater Task Force for as long as I've been following anything. My parents very quietly work on a lot of lake issues and things like that, and so I know how important this is, but it just, I don't think it gets as much fanfare as it should environmentally, but thank you for everyone who's on that and working to improve it.
Yeah, bring it up to the task force. You need to jazz things up a little bit.
Yeah, right.
More appealing somehow.
It's like a really
more
cool
glam.
group.
More glam.
Plus, it's a task force.
Yeah, do you have special uniforms or something?
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
Any other committee reports?
Just notes, before our next meeting, next Tuesday, I'll be at the Council of Aging meeting. I will also be meeting with the superintendent next Tuesday morning. And then on the 18th, I believe Ms. Luck and I will be going to the Cub Scouts. Are having an event on that evening. As I think we all were invited, and I believe Ms. Luck and I will be there.
Is this
Thanks
one
for
about the
reminding
energy?
me.
Say again?
Is this the one about the energy?
With the Cub Scouts?
Yeah, no, they wanted to know about energy and things like that.
I think it was kind of, it's broader, just about people in government and getting a better understanding of how their local government.
Because when I read it, I remember that it said something about energy, because I forwarded it to Dave Blatt, because I thought they were focusing on that as the
I
chair
agree
of the
with,
Green
that's
Energy.
what I read out of it as
Yeah,
well.
so, anyway, but it's good that you're going, and I asked Dave Blatt to be there. So.
Yeah, I believe it is looking as well, as I recall, into, I'm sure some part of it is kind of what we're doing as a town to be forward thinking about global warming and stuff like that.
Okay, so upcoming meeting. So next week, there is no selectmen meeting again. There will be a special town meeting, 7 p.m., Lunenburg Middle School, High School Auditorium, so please be there. Our next meeting is on November 19th. There will be no November 26th meeting. That is the week of Thanksgiving. I believe we're not meeting that, we
Right.
talked about, yep. Okay. Public comment, any public comment from the public? Sure? Any public comment from the board?
No.
All right, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Reason Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, and the chair so declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body, and to re-enter open session after exiting executive session. This is concerning the police union contract.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mrs. Adams?
Aye.
Mrs. Luck?
Aye.
An aye for me. We will return when we are done with executive session. Thank you.
Where do you
We
wanna?
will wait to be off the air here.